tonight. My name is Jeremy Catterton. I'm the Artistic Director of Landladies of Lion, so I have that hat that I'm going to wear, and I'm going to talk about that. But before that, I have the hat that I'm a privileged curator here at the Tank Theater. And with that privilege, I get to allow a lot of artists to come and use this space for new projects and a great many things. We curate comedy, we do dance, we do theater, and it's all in exchange for a very, well, we just give a lot of free space and a good, healthy portion of the box office. So if you're interested, contact the Tank. And if you have a show you want to put up, we're very approachable. Just come on up, and we'll listen to your ideas, and we're happy to give time and space to artists so that you can do shows like what we have here. But the Tank is not run just off of ticket sales alone. We have a great help from people like you, and people like you might be a little bit heavy in the pocket, maybe, in these grassy salad days like me, and post-tax day, I'm sure that we're just all rolling in it. And since, if you find that you're walking with a little limp, and you need to get that cash out of your pocket so that you can walk without the limp, I would direct it to this little box over here. This is a donation box that really does help us fund the space and make plenty of opportunities for plenty of artists. Also, if you want to help out, please volunteer. We're always looking for someone to help sweep up the space, run the bar. If you run the bar, get a free drink. Who doesn't want that? Who's not drinking? Oh, you're drinking, but it's just soda pop. You can still get a soda pop. It's fine. It's fine. I prefer beer if I was working, but anyways. You can volunteer, and that helps us out immensely. Also, what else you can do is let your friends know that you're here at the Tank. If you want to take your phone out right now, you want to do a little Foursquare, you want to do a little check-in, go on Facebook, let everyone know that, hey, I'm at the Tank and I'm about to watch Landladies with Lions Amazing, The Importance Being of Earnest. And you're able to do that. But after you do that, I'm going to ask that you turn your cell phone off. Just because we don't want any quacks, beeps, or goings on while we're enjoying this wonderful theatrical performance. We wouldn't want any interruptions by any means. So that was that hat. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeremy Catterton, the director of this piece, and I'm so grateful to share this show with you. But unfortunately, I have just a couple of bits of information I need to tell you before the show can go on, just a couple of explanations. Now, this is the final performance, so the show has been working well despite some of these setbacks because of some difficulties with our budget. Our set designer, who shall be nameless, has decided to opt out. So as you can see, we don't have a set for this 1895 drama for you. But don't worry about that, because the Tank is an amazing resource. And we've worked with them, and they have some stock furniture, and we decided that the show must go on. So we've assembled what we can, and we're going to put a show together for you tonight, just like we've done the last 5 nights, and it's still going to be an amazing run. Unfortunately, our cohorts that were with the set designer who opted out, we also had 2 actors that were playing Dr. Chasuble and Merriman the manservant. They also decided that this wasn't for them. Bless them, and may they go on their merry ways. But no grudges, because we have a wonderful ensemble. I'm so blessed to have this cast with me, and especially Brees Pickle, who's going to be playing all 3 roles. Dr. Chasuble, Lane the butler, and Merriman the manservant. We really stepped up our game, and we want to make certain that we can and share the show with you. Nothing's going to let us get down. Nothing is going to let us go down. So, again, thank you so much for coming this evening, afternoon, again. And it is our great pleasure to share with you, Lamleys of Lions, the importance of being earnest.
I didn't think it polite to listen, sir.
Well, I am sorry for your sake. I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately, but I play with marvelous expression. When it comes to piano, sentiment is my forte. I leave the science to life.
Yes, sir.
Oh, speaking of science of life, Lane, did you get the cucumber sandwiches cut for Lady Bracknell?
Yes, sir.
Oh, by the way, Lane, I saw in our book that last time Lord Shawman and Mr. Worthing dined with us, 8 bottles of champagne were marked down as having been consumed.
Yes, sir. 8 bottles and a pint.
Why is it that in a bachelor's establishment the servants invariably drink the champagne? I ask merely for information.
I attribute it to the superior quality of the wine, sir. I've often found that in married households, the champagne is rarely of a first-rate brand.
Dear heavens, is marriage so demoralizing as that?
I think it's a very beautiful state, sir. I've had very little experience of it myself up to the present. I've only been married once. And that was a consequence of a misunderstanding between me and a young person.
I don't know that I much care for your family life, Lane.
No, sir. It's not a very interesting subject. I never think of it myself.
Very natural, I'm sure. That'll do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Lane's views on marriage seem to me somewhat, lax. Now, if the lower orders aren't here to show us something and set a good example, I don't know what the hell is the use of them anyway. They seem to me as a class to have absolutely no sense of moral responsibility.
Mr. Ernest Worthing.
My dear Earnest, how are you? What brings you up to town?
Oh, pleasure. Pleasure. What else would bring one anywhere? Eating as usual, I see, Algy.
I believe it's customary after 5 o'clock to have some slight refreshment. What have you been up to since Thursday?
I've been in the country.
Ooh, and what does one do there?
When one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in the country, one amuses other people. It is excessively boring.
And who are these people you amuse?
Oh. Neighbours. Neighbours.
Got nice neighbours in your part of Shropshire?
Ah, perfectly horrid. Never speak to one of them.
How greatly you must amuse them. Shropshire is your county, is it not?
Shropshire. Yes, of course. Hello. Why all these cups? Why cucumber sandwiches? Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who is coming to tea?
Oh, merely Aunt Augusta. And Gwendolyn.
How perfectly delightful.
Yes, it's all well and good, my good fellow, but I'm afraid Aunt Augusta won't quite approve of your being here.
Why do you say that?
Well, the way that you flirt with Gwendolyn is perfectly disgraceful. It's almost as bad as the way Gwendolyn flirts with you.
I am in love with Gwendolyn. I came up to town expressly to propose to her.
What, you said you were here for pleasure? That sounds to me like business.
How utterly unromantic you are.
I see nothing romantic about the proposal. Yes, it's all well and good and lovely to be in love, but you know what, I see nothing romantic about a definite proposal. One may be accepted, one usually is, then the excitement's over. If I ever get married, I shall certainly try to forget the fact.
I have no doubt about that, Algy. The divorce court was specially invented for people whose memories are so curiously constituted.
There's no use speculating on that, my dear fellow. Divorces are made in heaven. Will you please stop eating the cucumber sandwiches? They are cut specially for Aunt Augusta.
Well, you have been eating them all the time.
Well, that's quite different. She's my aunt. Have some bread and butter. Bread and butter is for Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn's positively devoted to bread and butter.
And very good bread and butter it is, too.
Ugh, you need not eat them like you were going to eat them all. You act like you're married to already. You're not, in fact, married to already.
Why do you say that?
I don't think you ever will.
Oh, why do you say that?
Well, in the first place, girls never marry the men they flirt with. Girls don't think it's right.
Oh, that is nonsense.
No. And in the second place, I don't give my consent.
Your consent.
My dear fellow, Gwendolyn is my first cousin, and before I give you permission to marry her, clear up this whole business of Cecily.
Cecily? What do you mean by Cecily? What do you mean, Algie, by Cecily? I don't know anyone by the name of Cecily.
Will you please bring me the cigarette case Mr. Worthing left last time he dined with us?
Yes, sir.
Do you mean to say you've had my cigarette case all this time? I wish to goodness you had told me. I've been writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard about it. I was very nearly offering a large reward.
Well, I certainly wish you would offer one. I'm more than usually hard up at the moment.
Well, there's no good offering a large reward now that the thing is found.
Look, I dare say, Ernest, that is quite mean of you. But it is no matter, for now that I look at the inscription inside, it appears the thing isn't yours at all.
Of course it's mine. You've seen me with it 100 times. And you have no right to read what's written inside. It's a very ungentlemanly thing to read a private cigarette case.
No, it's perfectly ridiculous to have any hard and fast rules about what one should read and what one shouldn't. Half of modern culture depends on what one shouldn't read.
I'm quite aware of the fact, and I don't propose to discuss modern culture. It isn't the sort of thing one should talk of in private. Just give it back to me, Algie.
Yes, but this isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case is a present by someone of the name of Cecily, a name you said you knew no one of the name of.
Well, if you want to know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, charming old lady she is too, lives in Tunbridge Wells. Just give it back to me, Algie.
Yes, but why does your aunt call herself Little Cecily? From Little Cecily with her fondest love.
Well, what on earth is there in that? Some aunts are tall, some aunts are not tall. The aunt may be allowed to decide for herself. You think every aunt should be exactly like your aunt. That is absurd. Just give it back to me, Algie.
Yes, but why does your aunt call you her dear uncle? Now, from Little Cecily with fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. Now, I have no objection to an aunt being a small aunt, but why an aunt of any size should call her nephew her uncle, I can't quite make out. Besides, her name isn't Jack at all. It's Ernest.
It isn't Ernest. It's Jack.
You have always told me it was Ernest. I've introduced you to people as Ernest. You answer to the name of Ernest. You look as though your name is Ernest. You're simply the most earnest-looking person I've ever met in my entire life. It's perfectly absurd for you to say that your name isn't Ernest. It's on your cards. Here's one of them. Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4, the Albany. I shall keep this as proof that your name is Ernest if you ever try to deny to me, or to Gwendolyn, or to anyone else that your name is Ernest.
Well, my name is Ernest in town, and Jack in the country. And the cigarette case was given to me in the country.
Yes, but that doesn't explain why your little Aunt Cecily, who lives in Tunbridge Wells, calls you her dear uncle. Now come on. Boy, it'd be much better to have it out all at once.
My dear Algie, you talk exactly as if you were a dentist. It is a very vulgar thing to talk like a dentist when one isn't a dentist. It produces a false impression.
Which is exactly what dentists do. Now, I might add, my dear fellow, I've always suspected you of being a secret and confirmed Bunburyist. Now I'm quite sure of it.
Bunburyist? What on earth do you mean by a Bunburyist?
Oh, I will reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable expression the moment you reveal to me why you are Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Well, produce my cigarette case first.
Fine. Produce for me your answer, and pray, make it improbable.
There's nothing improbable about my explanation at all. In fact, it's perfectly ordinary. Old Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was a boy, made me in his will guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew. Cecily, who addresses me as her uncle from motives of respect you could not possibly appreciate, lives at my place in the country under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prism.
And where is that place in the country, by the by?
Oh, that is nothing to you, dear boy. You're not going to be invited. And I may tell you quite candidly, the place is not in Shropshire.
I quite suspected that, my dear fellow. I have bumperied my way up and down Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now, why are you Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear Algie, I don't know whether you'll be able to understand my real motives. You're hardly serious enough. When one is placed in the position of guardian, one must adopt a very high moral tone. It's one's duty to do so. And since a high moral tone can hardly be said to conduce to either one's health or one's happiness, in order to come up to town, I have always pretended to have a younger brother by the name of Earnest, who lives at the Albany and gets in the most dreadful scrapes. And that, my dear friend, is the whole truth, pure and simple.
Oh, the truth is rarely pure and never simple, otherwise modern life would be quite tedious. Modern literature, a complete impossibility.
I don't think that would be at all a bad thing.
Literary criticism is not your forte, my dear fellow. You should leave that to those who haven't been to the university. You do it so well in the daily papers. What you really are, though, is a bumburyist. I was quite right in saying you were a bumburyist. In fact, you might be one of the most advanced bumburists I've ever met in my entire life.
What do you mean?
Well, you have invented the younger brother of the name of Earnest that you may go into town whenever you please. I have invented the invaluable permanent invalid of the name of Bunbury that I may go into the country whenever I so choose. Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. In fact, if it wasn't for Bunbury's extraordinary bad health, I might not be able to dine with you at Willis's tonight, for I've really been engaged to Aunt Augusta for more than a week.
I haven't asked you to dine anywhere with me tonight.
I know, it's perfectly careless of you. Nothing prevents me from more than not receiving invitations.
I think you had much better dine with your Aunt Augusta.
I have no intention of doing anything of the kind. In the first place, I dine with her on Monday, and once a week is more than enough to dine with one's own relations. In the second place, whenever I'm there, I'm treated as family, and I'm either set down with no women, or two. No. In the third place, I know who she'll place me next to. She'll place me next to Mary Farquhar, who always flirts with her own husband across the dinner table. It's awful. Not even decent. And that sort of thing is extremely on the increase. The amount of women in London who flirt with their own husbands, that's perfectly disgraceful. Besides, now that I know you to be a confirmed bumburyist, I naturally want to talk to you about bumbering. I want to tell you the rules.
I'm not a bumburyist at all. In fact, if Gwendolyn accepts me, I'm going to kill my brother. Indeed, I think I'll kill him in any case. Cecily is becoming a little bit too much fond of him, and it's rather a bore. So I'm going to get rid of Earnest. And I suggest you do the same with with your invalid friend with the absurd name.
Oh, nothing will induce me to part from Bunbury. Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. And if you ever get married, which I view as extremely problematic, you'll want to know Bunbury. A man who gets married without knowing Bunbury has a very tedious time of it.
If I marry a charming girl like Gwendolyn, and she's the only girl I ever cared for in all my life, I certainly won't want to know Bunbury.
Then your wife will. What you don't seem to understand is that in marriage, 3's company and 2 is none.
That, my dear young friend, is the theory the corrupt French drama has been propounding for the last 50 years.
That must be Aunt Augusta. Look, if I give you 10 minutes that you may have the opportunity to propose to Gwendolyn, might I be able to dine with you at Willis's tonight?
I suppose so, if you want to.
Yes, but only if you're serious about it. I hate when people aren't serious about meals. So shallow of them.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, Algernon. I hope that you're behaving quite well.
Oh, I'm feeling quite well, Aunt Augusta. Mwah.
Well, the two really aren't the same thing. In fact, they rarely go together.
Dear me, you are smart.
I am always smart. Aren't I, Mr. Worthing?
You are quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
I hope I am not that. That would leave no room for developments, and I intend to develop in many directions.
I hope we're not late, Algernon. I had to visit Lady Harbury. I haven't seen poor Lady Harbury since her husband's death. I've never seen a woman so altered. She looks quite 20 years younger. And now I'll have a cucumber sandwich and one of those nice cups of tea that you promised me.
Yes, certainly.
Gwendolyn, you will come sit by me, won't you?
Oh, I'm perfectly comfortable where I am, thanks, Mama.
Lane, why are there no cucumber sandwiches here?
There were no cucumbers in the market this morning, sir.
No.
I went down twice.
No cucumbers?
No, sir, not even for ready money.
That'll do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Aunt Augusta, I'm deeply disappointed to hear that there were no cucumbers at the market today, not even for ready money.
It really makes no difference, Algernon. I had some crumpets with Lady Harbury, who seems to me to be living entirely for pleasure now.
Yes, I heard her hair has turned quite gold from grief.
Oh, it certainly has changed colour. From what cause, of course, I cannot say. Thank you. Oh, I have such a treat for you, Algernon. I'm sending you down with Lady Farquhar. She's such a delight and so devoted to her husband. It's wonderful to watch them.
I'm afraid I won't be able to dine with you this evening after all, Aunt Augusta.
I should hope not. It would put my table completely out. Your uncle would have to dine upstairs. Fortunately, he's accustomed to that.
It is a terrible disappointment and needless to say a great bore, but I've just received a telegram from my dear friend Bunbury. It appears he's very ill again. The doctors seem to think that I should be with him.
This Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Yes, Bunbury is in fact a dreadful invalid.
Well, I think it is high time that Mr. Bunbury decided whether or not he was going to live or die. This silly sallying with the question is absurd. Not that I go in for this modern sympathy with invalids. No, I consider it morbid. Health is the primary duty of life. And I'm always telling that to your poor uncle, but he never seems to listen to me as far as his health is concerned. But I would be much obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury from me if he would be so kind as not to have a relapse on Saturday. For I require you to arrange my music for me. It's the last reception of the season, and one requires music that will inspire conversation, especially at the end of the season, when everyone's already said whatever they had to say, which in most cases isn't that much.
Well, I shall certainly talk to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he's conscious, and I can say with relative certainty he'll be absolutely fine by Saturday. Now, the music. This is a great difficulty. If one plays good music, no one listens. If one plays bad music, people don't talk. But I shall gladly go over the program I've drawn up if you'll kindly accompany me into the other room.
That is most thoughtful of you, Algernon. I'm sure that the program will be most acceptable after a few expurgations. French music simply cannot allow. People always find it improper, and they either they think it's vulgar, or they laugh, which is even worse. However, German, I think, is a thoroughly respectable language, and I indeed believe it is so. Gwendolyn, you will accompany me, won't you?
Yes, certainly, Mamma.
Charming weather we're having, Miss Fairfax.
Pray, don't talk to me about the weather. Whenever people talk about the weather, I feel quite certain that they mean something else, and that makes me so nervous.
I do mean something else.
Ah, yes, I thought so. In fact, I am never wrong.
And I would like to be allowed to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you
Mr.
to do
Worthing,
so.
rise, sir, from this.
Mamma has a way of coming back suddenly into a room that I have often had to speak to her about.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I've met you, I have admired you more than any girl I have ever met since I met you.
Yes, I am quite aware of the fact. And I often wish that in public, at any rate, you had been more demonstrative. For me, you have always had an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. The fact is constantly mentioned in more expensive monthly magazines and has reached the provincial pulpit, so I am told. And my ideal has always been to love someone of the name of Earnest. There's something in the name that inspires absolute confidence. The moment that Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Earnest, I knew I was destined to love you.
Do you really love me?
Passionately.
Oh, Gwendolyn, you don't know how happy you've made me.
Mr. Worthing, rise, sir! Rise, sir, from that semi-recumbent posture. It is most indecorous.
I must beg you to retire, Mamma. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing is not quite finished yet.
Finished what, may I ask?
I'm engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Pardon me? You are not engaged to anyone. When you are engaged to someone, your father, should his health permit him, and I will let you know. An engagement should come on a girl like a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant as the case may be, but it's hardly a matter that she could arrange for herself. And Mr. Worthing, I have some questions to put to you. And while I'm making these inquiries, Gwendolyn, you may wait up below in the carriage for me.
But Mama!
Gwendolyn, in the carriage. In the carriage, Gwendolyn.
Yes, Mama.
You may take a seat, sir.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you that you're not on my list of eligible young men. And I have the same list as the great Duchess of Bolton has. Oh, we work together, in fact. However, I am willing to put your name down should you provide the answers that a truly affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I must admit I smoke.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that a man should have some occupation of some sort. There's far too many idle men in London as it is. What is your age?
29.
Oh, that is a very good age to get married at. I'm always of the opinion that a man that desires to get married should either know everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
Oh, I'm pleased to hear it. I am not in favor of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate exotic fruit. Touch it, and the bloom is gone. Thankfully, the whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Unfortunately, it's taken no hold in England. For indeed, if it did, it would lead to danger in the upper classes, or lead to acts of violence in Grosvenor Square. What is your income?
£89,000 a year.
In land or in investments?
In investments, chiefly.
Oh, that is satisfactory. What between the duties exacted of one's lifetime and the duties extracted after one's death, land has ceased to be a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position without letting one hold it up. And that's all that can be said about land.
I do own a country house, with some land, of course, attached to it. About 1,500 acres, but I don't rely on that for my real income. No, as far as I can make out, the poachers are the only ones who get anything out of it.
A country house. How many rooms has it? Though that can be decided after the fact. You do have a townhouse, I hope. A girl like Gwendolyn can hardly be expected to reside in the country.
I own a house in Belgrave Square, but it's let by the year to Lady Bloxham. Of course, I can get it back whenever I like, at 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham, I do not know her.
She goes out very little. She is a lady considerably advanced in years.
Oh, nowadays that is hardly a guarantee for respectable society. What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
Oh, the fashionable side. I knew there was something, but that can easily be altered.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Both, if necessary, I presume. What are your politics?
I'm afraid I really have none. I'm a liberal unionist.
Oh, those count as Tories! They dine with us, or at least are seen late at night at any rate. Now for minor matters. Are your parents living?
I'm afraid I have lost both my parents.
Both. To lose one may seem like a misfortune, but to lose both is a carelessness. Who was your father? Evidently he was a man of some wealth. Was he born in what the papers call the purple of commerce, or did he rise in the aristocracy?
I'm afraid I really don't know. The fact is, Lady Bracknell, I said I had lost both my parents. It would be nearer to the truth to say my parents seem to have lost me.
Oh.
I was found.
Found?
The late Mr. Thomas Cardew, an old gentleman of a very kind and charitable disposition, found me and gave me the name of Worthing because he happened to have a first-class ticket for Worthing in his pocket at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex, a seaside resort.
And where did this charitable gentleman with a first-class ticket to a seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag.
A large black leather handbag with handles, an ordinary handbag.
And where, which locality did this Mr. James or Thomas Cardew find you in this ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom of Victoria Station, it was given him in mistake for his own.
That's the cloakroom at Victoria Station.
The Brighton line.
The line is immaterial. I must confess that what you have told me has made me a bit bewildered. To be born, let alone bred, in a handbag with or without handles seems to me to be a direct contempt for the modern decencies of a family, not to mention the extravagances of the French Revolution, and I need not tell you what that unfortunate movement led to. And as for the locality in which this handbag was found, the cloakroom at Victoria Station, that seems to hide an indiscretion, and has no doubt been used for that purpose before now. However, it is hardly an assured basis for recognized position in good society.
Might I ask what you would advise I do? I need hardly say I would do anything in the world to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
Well, I would advise you to find some relations as soon as possible, and to produce one parent of either sex at any rate, before the season is quite over.
I don't see how I could possibly manage to do that. I could produce the handbag at any moment. I have it at home in my dressing room. Certainly that will satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? What has it to do with me? You can hardly expect that Lord Bracknell and I would let our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel? Good morning, Mr. Worthing.
Good morning. Oh, Algie, stop playing that ghastly tune! How idiotic you are!
What? Didn't it go off all right, old boy? Oh, you don't mean to say she refused you. I know how she is. Always refusing people. I think it's most ill-natured of her.
Gwendolyn is right as a trivet. No, as far as she is concerned, we are engaged. Her mother is unbearable. I've never met such a gorgon. I don't even know what a gorgon is like, but I'm pretty sure Lady Bracknell is one. At any rate, she is a monster, without being a myth, which I think is rather unfair. Oh, Algie, I'm sorry. I shouldn't talk this way about your own aunt before you.
Oh, my dear fellow, I love hearing my relations abused. It's the only reason I keep them around. Relations are simply a tedious pack of people with no knowledge of how to live, nor no instinct of when to die.
Oh, that is nonsense.
It isn't.
Well, I won't argue with you about the matter. You always want to argue things.
Well, that is what things were originally made for.
If I thought that, I'd shoot myself. You don't think there's any chance of Gwendolyn becoming like her mother in about 150 years?
Oh, all women become like their mothers. That is their great tragedy. No men do. That's theirs.
Is that clever?
It's perfectly phrased and containing as much truth as anything in civilized life should. Speaking of which, did you tell her about your being Earnest in town and Jack in the country?
Oh, the truth is not the kind of thing one tells a sweet girl like Gwendolyn. What strange ideas you have about how to behave to a woman.
There's only one way to behave to a woman. Make love to her, if she's pretty, and someone else if she's plain.
Oh, that is nonsense.
What about your brother? What about the prolific Earnest?
By the end of the week, I shall have got rid of him. I'll say he died abroad of apoplexy. Lots of people die of apoplexy quite suddenly, don't they?
Yes, but it's hereditary. It's the sort of thing that runs in families. You must better say a severe chill.
You're sure severe chill isn't hereditary or anything of the kind?
Of course it isn't.
All right. I'll say he died in Paris of a severe chill. That takes care of Earnest.
What about Cecily? I thought you said she's a little too fond of our dear Earnest. Won't she feel his loss a great deal?
No, there's nothing in that, dear boy. Cecily is not a silly, romantic girl, I'm glad to say. She takes long walks, has a capital appetite, and pays no attention at all to her lessons.
Oh, I think I'd quite like to meet Cecily.
Oh, I'll make sure you never do. She's excessively pretty and only just turned 18.
Does Gwendolyn know you have an excessively pretty ward who only just turned 18?
Oh, one doesn't just blurt these things out to people. Gwendolyn and Cecily are sure to be fast friends. You'll see. Half an hour after they've met, they'll be calling each other sister.
My dear fellow, women only do that after they've called each other a lot of other things first. Now, if we want to get a good table at Lotus's, we really must go and get dressed. It's almost nearly 7.
Oh, it's almost always nearly 7. Miss Fairfax.
Gwendolyn, upon my word.
Archie, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
Oh, really, Gwendolyn? I don't think I can allow this at all.
Algy, you adopt a strict and moral attitude toward life. You're not quite old enough to do that yet. Ernest, we may never be married. From the look upon Mamma's face, I fear we never shall. Few parents nowadays pay any regard for what their children say to them. The old-fashioned respect for the young is fast dying out. Whatever influence I had over Mamma, I lost at the age of 3. But although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry someone else, and marry often, there is nothing that she could possibly do that can alter my eternal devotion to you.
Oh, my own one. Oh.
The story of your romantic origins, as related to me by Mamma, with unpleasing comments, has naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my nature. Your Christian name has an irresistible fascination. The simplicity of your character is exquisitely incomprehensible to me. Your address in the Albany I have. What is your address in the country?
The Manor House, Woolton, Hertfordshire. Manor House, Woolton, Hertfordshire. Hertfordshire.
It may be necessary to do something desperate. That, of course, will require serious consideration. I will communicate with you daily.
My own one.
How long do you remain in town?
Till Monday.
Good. Algy, you may turn round now.
I already have, thanks.
You may also ring the bell.
You will let me see you to your carriage?
Oh, certainly.
Oh, I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, Lane, I shall go bumbering. You can
Yes,
leave
sir.
out all my Bunbury suits, and my smoking jacket, and my pipe. I shan't be back till Monday.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I hope tomorrow is a fine day, Lane.
It never is, sir.
What a perfect pessimist you are.
I do my best to give satisfaction, sir.
What a sensible, intellectual girl. The only girl I ever cared for in all my life. What are you so amused at?
Oh, I'm merely just terribly worried about my dear friend Bunbury.
You better take care. Your dear friend Bunbury is going to get you into a serious scrape someday.
Oh, I love scrapes. They're the only thing that's never serious.
Oh, that is nonsense. You never talk anything but nonsense.
Nobody ever does.
Oh.
You have to call me. My lips will be there for you. You don't have to worry, 'cause I know what be there for you, girl. Never you call me. Don't be told. Really got to wonder. I will be there for you, girl.
task as the watering of the flowers is rather Moulton's duty than yours. Especially when intellectual pleasures await you. Your German grammar is on the table, pray open it at page 15.
But I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language. I know perfectly well that I look quite plain after my German lesson.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German as he was leaving for town yesterday. Indeed, he always lays stress on your German as he's leaving for town.
Dear Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes he is so serious I think he cannot be quite well.
Your guardian enjoys the best of health, and his gravity of demeanor is especially to be commended in one so comparatively young as he. I know no one with a higher sense of duty and responsibility.
I suppose that is why he often looks a bit bored when we three are together.
Cecily, I'm surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. Idle merriment and triviality would be out of place in this conversation. You must remember his constant anxiety about that young, unfortunate man, his brother.
I wish he would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down here sometime. We might have good influence on him, Miss Prism. I'm sure you certainly would. You know German and geology, and things of that kind influence a man very much.
I do not think that even I could produce any kind of effect on a character that, according to his own brother's admission, is irretrievably weak and vacillating. Indeed, I do not think I would desire to reclaim him at all. I'm not in favor of this modern mania for turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. As a man sows, let him reap. You must put away your diary, Cecily. I really don't see why you should have one at all.
I keep a diary in order to enter the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, dear Cecily, is the diary that we all carry about with us.
Yes, but it often chronicles things that have never happened and could never have possibly happened. I believe memory is responsible for nearly all of the 3-volume novels that Moody sends us.
Do not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I myself wrote one in earlier days.
Really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They depress me.
The good ended happily, the bad unhappily. This is what fiction means, Cecily.
Yes, I suppose so. But it seems rather unfair. And was Rosanna published?
Alas, no. The manuscript was abandoned. I use the word in the sense of lost and mislaid. To your work, child, these speculations are profitless.
But I see dear Dr. Chasuble coming up through the garden.
Dr. Chasuble, this is a pleasure indeed.
And how are we this morning? Miss Prism, you are, I trust, well.
Miss Prism has just been complaining of a slight headache. I think it would do her so much good to go for a short stroll with you in the park, Dr. Chasuble.
I have mentioned nothing of a headache.
No, dear Miss Prism, I know that, but I felt instinctively that you had a headache. Indeed, I was thinking about that and not my German lesson when the rector walked in.
I hope, Cecily, you're not being unattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am.
That is strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. I was speaking metaphorically. My metaphor was drawn from bees. I suppose Mr. Worthing hasn't returned from town.
We do not expect him until Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes. He likes to spend his Sunday in London. He's not one of those whose sole aim is enjoyment, as, by all accounts, that unfortunate young man, his brother, seems to be. But I will not disturb Egeria and her pupil any longer.
Oh, Egeria, my name is Letitia, Doctor.
A classical allusion, merely drawn from pagan authors. I shall see you both go down at Evensong.
I think that I will have a stroll with you after all. I find I do have a headache and a walk might do it.
Oh, with pleasure, Miss Prism, with pleasure. Perhaps we'll go as far as the schools and back.
That would be delightful. You will read your political economy in my absence. You may omit the chapter on the fall of the rupee. It's somewhat too sensational. Metallic problems have these melodramatic sides.
Horrid political economy. Horrid geography. Horrid German. Horrid political economy. Horrid geography. Horrid German. Horrid German.
Mr. Ernest Worthing has just driven in from the station. He has brought his luggage with him.
Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4, Albany, W. Uncle Jack's brother. Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, miss. He seemed very much disappointed. I told him you and Miss Prism were in the garden. He said he was anxious to speak to you privately for a moment.
Well, you can tell Mr. Ernest Worthing to come out here. And you can ask the housekeeper to set up a room for him.
Yes, miss.
I have never met any really wicked person before. I feel rather frightened. I'm so afraid he will look just like everyone else. He does.
You must be my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
You must be under some strange mistake. I am not little. In fact, I believe I am more than usually tall for my age. But I am your cousin Cecily. And you, I see from your card, are my cousin Ernest. My wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, you really mustn't call me wicked at all, cousin Cecily. I'm really not wicked.
If you are not, then you certainly have been deceiving us all. I hope you have not been leading a double life, pretending to be wicked and really being good all this time. That would be hypocrisy.
Well, I have been rather reckless.
You are looking a little worse.
That's just because I am hungry.
How thoughtless of me. I should have remembered when one is going to lead an entirely new life. One requires regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in?
Might I have a buttonhole first? Never have any appetite unless I have a buttonhole first.
A matcha miel?
No. I'd sooner have the pink rose.
Why?
Well, because you are like a pink rose, cousin Cecily.
I don't think you should say such things to me. Miss Prism never says such things to me.
Well, Miss Prism is a silly, short-sighted old woman. You are the prettiest girl I've ever seen.
Miss Prism says all good looks are a snare.
Snare any sensible man would love to be caught in.
I don't think I should care to catch a sensible man. I shouldn't know what to talk to him about.
Dr. Chasuble, you are too much alone. You should get married. A misanthrope I can understand, but a womanthrope, never.
It's fine. Say the next one. 42, page 42.
Believe me, I do not deserve so kneeling to stick a phrase. The precept as well as the practice of the primitive church was distinctly against matrimony.
By persistently remaining single, a man converts himself into a permanent public temptation. A man should be more... This very celibacy leads weaker vessels astray.
But is man not equally attracted to married?
No married man is ever attractive except to his wife.
And often I've been told, not even to her.
That depends on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Maturity can be dependent on ripeness, can be trusted. Young women are green. I'm speaking horticulturally. My metaphor is drawn from fruits. But where is Cecily?
Perhaps she followed us to the schools.
Oh, Mr. Worthing!
Mr. Worthing?
We do not need to look for you Monday afternoon.
I returned sooner than expected. Dr. Chasuble, are you well?
Yeah, Mr. Worthing, I trust the scar of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother.
more shameful death and extravagance.
Still leading his life of pleasure.
Dead.
Your brother Earnest dead.
Quite dead.
What a lesson for him, I trust he'll profit by it.
Were you with him at the end?
No, he died abroad, in Paris. I had a telegram last night from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
What was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Charity, Miss Prism, charity. None of us are perfect. I myself am peculiarly susceptible to draughts. Will the interment take place here?
No. He seems to have expressed a desire to be buried in Paris.
In Paris? I fear that hardly points to any very serious state of mind in the lost. You would no doubt wish me to make some slight allusion to the tragic domestic affliction next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of the man in the wilderness can be adopted to almost any occasion, joyful or, in the present case, distressing. I preached it at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmations, on days of humiliation and festal days.
Ah, you mentioned christenings. I think not possible. I suppose you know how to christen all right. Meaning, of course, that you are continually christening.
It is one of the rector's most constant duties in the parish. I regret to say I have often spoken to the poorer classes on the subject, but they do not seem to know what thrift is.
Is there any particular infant in whom you are interested, Mr. Wood?
It's not for any child. I'm very fond of children. No, I was wondering if I could be christened myself.
But surely, Mr. Worthing, you have been christened already.
I don't remember anything about it.
Well, have you any grave doubts on the subject?
I certainly intend to have. But I don't know if the thing would bother you in any way, or if you think I'm a little too old now.
Not at all. The sprinkling and indeed the immersion of adults is a perfectly canonical practice.
Immersion.
Oh, you need have no apprehensions. The sprinkling is all that is necessary, and I think advisable. The weather is so changeable. At what hour would you wish your ceremony performed?
Oh, I might trot round about 5, if that would suit you.
Admirably, admirably. And now, Mr. Worthing, I will not intrude any longer into a house of sorrow. I merely beg of you not to be too bowed down by grief. What seems to us bitter trials are often blessings in
It
disguise.
seems to me a blessing of an extremely obvious kind.
Uncle Jack! Oh, I'm pleased to see you back. I've got such a surprise for you. Who do you think is in the dining room? Your brother.
Who?
Your brother Ernest. He arrived about half an hour ago.
But I haven't got a brother.
Oh, don't say that. However badly he may have acted towards you in the past, he is still your brother. You couldn't be so heartless as to disown him. I'll tell him to come out, and you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
These are joyful tidings.
After we had all been resigned to his loss, his sudden return seems particularly distressing to me.
My brother is in the dining room. I don't know what it means. I think it is absurd.
Dear
Oh, for goodness sake!
John, I am so sorry for all the trouble that I've caused you, and I promise from this point forward to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack, you are not going to refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. I think his coming down here disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack, if you don't take Ernest's hand, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me.
Never, never, never.
Well, then it is the last time I shall ever do so.
It's wonderful, isn't it, to see so beautiful a reconciliation? I feel we may leave these two brothers together.
Miss Cecily, you'll come with us.
Certainly, Miss Prism.
You have done a beautiful deed today, child.
We must not be premature, Master.
I feel very happy.
You young scoundrel, Algie. I won't allow any bumburying here.
No bumbering here.
None.
How about here?
Not there either.
Maybe over by this chair.
No bumburying in this.
I have put Mr. Earnest things in the room next to your own, sir. I figured that was all right. What? Mr. Earnest's luggage, sir. I have unpacked it and put it in the room next to your own.
His luggage.
Yes, sir. 3 portmanteaus, a dressing case, 2 hat boxes, and a rather large luncheon basket.
I shan't be able to stay with you more than a week this time.
Merriman, go and order the dog cart at once. Mr. Earnest has been suddenly called back to town.
Yes, sir.
What a fearful liar you are, Jack. I haven't been called anywhere.
Yes, you have.
Well, I haven't heard myself called anywhere.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My
Duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures in the slightest degree.
Oh, well, I can quite well understand that.
Well, Cecily is a darling.
I will not have you talk of Miss Cardew like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. Perfectly ridiculous. Yes, it's perfectly childish to be indeed mourning for a man who's going to be a house guest for an entire week. I call it grotesque.
You will not be staying with me for a whole week as a house guest or anything else. You have got to catch the 4:05 train.
I certainly won't leave you while you're in mourning. That would be most unkind of me. Yes, I dare say, if I was in mourning, you would stay with me. Otherwise, I find it most unfriendly.
Well, will you go if I change my clothes?
Yes. If you do it quickly. I've never seen someone take so long to dress and have so little result.
Oh, well, it's better than always being overdressed as you are.
Well, if I am overdressed, I make up for it by being immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous. Your conduct an outrage. And your presence in my garden utterly absurd. But you have got to catch the 4:05 train. I wish you a pleasant journey back to town. This bumpering, as you call it, has not been a great success for you.
I dare say it has been a great success. I'm in love with Cecily, and that is everything. Now, I must go see her before I go off on another bumbery. Oh, here she is.
Oh, I merely came back to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
No, he's gone to get the dog cart for me.
Is he going to take you for a nice drive?
No, he's going to take me away.
And have we got to part?
Yes, what a most painful parting it is.
It is always painful to part from one you've only shared a very brief space of time with. In the absence of old friends one can endure with equanimity. But even a momentary separation from one you've only just been introduced is almost unbearable.
Thank you.
The dog cart is at the door, sir.
It can wait, Merriman. 5 minutes.
Yes, miss.
Cecily, I hope you're not offended when I say, to me you seem to be the visible personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. If you will allow me, I will copy your remarks into my diary.
To your diary? You keep a diary? Well, I'd give anything to read it now.
No, it is simply a record of a very young girl's thoughts and impressions, and consequently made for publication. When it comes in volume form, I hope you'll order a copy. But pray, Ernest, don't stop. I delight in taking down for dictation. I have reached absolute perfection. You can go on. I'm quite ready for more. Oh, don't cough, Ernest. When one is dictating, one must speak fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell a cough.
Cecily, ever since I first looked upon your wonderful and incomparable beauty, I've dared to love you wildly, passionately, hopelessly, devotedly.
I don't think you should tell me that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
Cecily!
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
Tell it to come around at the same hour next week.
Yes, sir.
Uncle Jack would be very much annoyed if he knew you were staying on till the same hour of next week.
Well, I don't care about Jack. I don't care about anyone in the world but you. I love you, Cecily. You will marry me, won't you?
Yes, of course, you silly boy. Why, we have been engaged for the past 3 months.
Past 3 months?
Yes, it will be exactly 3 months this Thursday.
But Cecily, how exactly did we become engaged?
Well, ever since Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and bad, you of course formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism. And obviously a man who is much talked about is extremely attractive. One feels there must be something in him after all. I dare say it was foolish of me, Ernest, but I fell in love with you.
Darling, but when was the engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of February last. Worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I determined to end the matter one way or another. And after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under this dear old tree here. The next day I bought this little ring in your name, and this is the bangle with the true lover's knot I promised you always to wear.
Oh, it's very pretty, isn't it? I give you it?
Yes, you've wonderful good taste, Ernest. It's the excuse I've always given you for leading such a bad life. And this is the box where I keep all of your dear letters.
My letters! But my dear sweet Cecily, I've never written you any letters.
You need hardly remind me of that, Ernest. I remember only too well that I was forced to write them for you. I wrote 3 times a week always, sometimes oftener.
Well, I'd give anything to read them. May I?
No, they'd make you far too conceited. The 3 you wrote me after I broke off the engagement with you are so beautiful and so badly spelled that even now I can hardly read them without crying a little.
But was the engagement ever actually broken off?
Yes, on the 22nd of last March. You can read the entry if you like. Today I broke off my engagement with Earnest. I feel it is better to do so. The weather still continues charming.
Cecily, why did you break off the proposal? I mean, what had I done? I haven't done anything at all, Cecily. I'm quite offended to hear that you broke off our engagement, particularly when the weather was so charming.
It would have hardly been a very serious engagement if not broken off at least once. Besides, I forgave you before the week was out.
Oh, what a perfect angel you are!
You dear romantic boy. Oh, I hope your hair curls naturally, does it?
Oh, yes, with a little help from others.
Oh, I'm so glad.
But you never would break off our engagement again, will you, Cecily?
I don't think I could now that I've actually met you. Besides, there's of course the whole question of your name.
Of course.
You mustn't laugh at me, darling, but it had always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone of the name of Earnest.
Ah.
The name itself seems to inspire absolute confidence. I pity any poor married woman whose husband is not called Earnest.
Do you mean to say you couldn't love me if I had some other name?
But what name?
You know, any old name you like. Algernon, for instance.
Oh, but I don't like the name of Algernon.
But, Cecily, I don't see why you shouldn't like the name of Algernon. It's not a bad name at all. In fact, it's a rather aristocratic name. Half the chaps who go to bankruptcy court are named Algernon. But seriously, Cecily, you couldn't love me if my name was Algie?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your moral character, but I feel I'd be unable to give you my undivided attention.
Cecily, your rector here, I suppose, is well versed in all the rites and ceremonials of the church.
Oh, yes, Dr. Charleston is a most learned man. He has never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
Oh, I must receive him at most important christening. I mean, most important business. I shan't be away more than half an hour.
Oh. Well, considering we have been engaged since February the 14th, and I've only just met you today for the very first time, I think it is rather hard of you to leave me for so long a period as half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I will be back in no time.
Oh, what an impetuous boy he is! I like his hair so much. I must enter his proposal into my diary.
Miss Fairfax has called to see Mr. Worthing. On very important business, Miss Fairfax states.
Isn't Mr. Worthing in the library?
Mr. Worthing went over in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Pray ask her lady to come out here. And you can bring tea.
Yes, miss.
Miss Fairfax. I suppose one of the many good elderly women associated with Uncle Jack and his philanthropic work in London. I don't much care for women involved in philanthropic work. I think it is so forward of them.
Miss Fairfax!
Pray, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Cecily Cardew. Cecily Cardew? Oh, what a very sweet name. Well, something tells me we are going to be great friends. I already like you more than I could say, and my first impressions of people are never wrong. How nice of you to like me so much after we have known each other such a comparatively short time. Pray, sit down. I may call you Cecily, may I not? With pleasure. And you will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you? If you wish. Oh, then it is all quite settled, is it not? I hope so.
Well, perhaps this might be a favorable opportunity for my mentioning who I am.
My father is Lord Bracknell. You've heard of Papa, I suppose. I don't think so. Oh. Well, outside the family circle, Papa is entirely unknown, I'm glad to say. I think it is quite as it should be. The home is the proper sphere for a man. And certainly, once a man begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate, does he not? And I don't like that. Makes men so very attractive. Oh, Cecily, Mama, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. It is part of her system. So, do you mind my looking at you through my glasses?
Oh, not at all, Gwendolyn. I'm very fond of being looked at.
You are here on a short visit, I suppose?
Oh, no, I live here.
Really? Your mother, no doubt, or some other female relative of Laurent's years resides here also?
No, I have no mother, nor in fact any relations.
Indeed.
My dear guardian, with the assistance of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me.
Your guardian?
Yes, I am Mr. Worthing's ward.
Oh, it is strange. He never mentioned to me that he had a ward. How secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. I'm not sure, however, this news inspires me with feelings of mixed delight. I'm very fond of you, Cecily. I've liked you ever since I met you. But I am bound to state, now that I know that you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I cannot help expressing a wish you were, well, just a little bit older than you seem to be, and not quite so very alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly,
Pray do. I feel whenever one has anything unpleasant to say, they should be quite candid.
Well, to speak with perfect candor, Cecily, I wish that you were fully 42 and more than usually plain for your age. Earnest has a strong, upright nature. He is the very soul of truth and honor. Disloyalty to him would be as impossible as deception. But even men of the noblest possible moral character are extremely susceptible to the physical charms of others. Modern, no less ancient history supplies us with the many most painful examples of what I refer to. If it were not so, indeed, history would be quite unreadable.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolyn. Did you say Ernest?
Yes.
Oh, but it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is my guardian. It is his brother, his elder brother.
He never mentioned to me that he had a brother.
I'm sorry to say they have not been on good terms for a long time.
Ah! Oh, then that counts for it. Oh, now that I think about it, I have never heard any man mention his brother. The subject seems distasteful to most men. Oh, Cecily, you lifted a load off my mind. I was growing almost anxious. It would have been terrible if any cloud had come across a friendship like ours, would it not? Of course, you are quite... You're quite sure that it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian?
Quite sure. In fact, I am going to be his. I'm going to be his.
I beg your pardon.
Dearest Gwendolyn, there's no reason I should make a secret of it to you. Our little county newspaper is sure to chronicle the fact next week. Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
There has been some slight error. Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me. The announcement will appear in the Morning Post on Saturday at the latest.
I'm afraid you must be absolutely sincere. Ernest proposed to me exactly me 10 minutes ago. Oh, that is certainly very curious, for he asked me to be his wife yesterday at 5:30. If you care to verify the incident, pray do so. I never travel with my diary. One should always have something sensational to read on the train. I'm so sorry, dear Cecily, if this is any disappointment to you, but I'm afraid that I have the prior claim.
It would distress me more than I can tell you, dear Gwendolyn, if it caused you any mental or physical anguish. But I feel bound to point out that since Ernest proposed to you, he clearly has changed his mind.
Oh, if the poor fellow has been entrapped into a foolish promise, I will consider it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand.
Whatever entanglement my dear boy may have got into, I will never reproach him with it after we are married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cuddew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? This is no time for the shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade!
Oh, I'm very glad to say that I have never seen a spade. It is clear that our social spheres have been widely different.
Shall I lay the tea as usual, miss?
Yes, as usual. What the fuck? Are you kidding me? What the fuck is this? Yes. Turn the lights on so everybody can see. You should all just leave. Why do you have your cell phone on the stage? It's so fucking unprofessional. Stop what? Stop what? The bar is open. Don't touch me. Fuck you.
Fairfax, no!
Yes, you are fucking. Oh, get away from me.
The bar is open.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very sorry about the interruption. Just give us a moment, and we're going to we're just going to reset, and we're gonna pick up right where we left off. So just give us a moment. Just give us a second here, Blair. You know that too, right? I really need details. The last one we're filming it. We're not to get this clip done. If you need to use the script, no, you really need to get going. Josh, can you get the corset for Blair, please?
Turn your fucking phone off.
Jesus Christ. Okay, alright, this is good. The bar is closed now for a moment. And let's give a round of applause. We're going to have Blair O'Leary, our understudy, is going to take over for the role of Gwendolyn. And we're going to continue on with the show. And we greatly appreciate your patience. And just give us a moment here. And let's just pick up right where we left off, guys. Don't worry about it. Just go ahead and start from the scene, okay? You can just
I got
Just run the scene, guys. We have to be out of here. Just go to the scene. You got it. You can do it.
I got it.
Shall I lay the tea as usual?
Yes, as usual. Are there many interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Oh, yes, a great many. From the top of one of the hills nearby, one can see almost 5 counties.
5 counties? Oh, I don't think I should like that. I hate crowds.
I suppose that's why you live in town, then.
Quite a well-kept garden this is, Miss Cardew.
So glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I had no idea there were so many flowers in the country.
Yes, flowers are as common here, Miss Fairfax, as people are in London.
Personally, I don't understand how anybody manages to exist in the country. Anybody who's anybody, that is. The country always seems to bore me to death.
Ah, yes, that is what the newspapers call agricultural depression, is it not? I hear the aristocracy is suffering from it very much just at present. May I offer you some tea?
Thank you. Detestable girl, but I require tea.
Sugar?
No, thank you. Sugar isn't fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter. Cake is rarely seen at the best houses nowadays.
And that to Miss Fairfax?
You have filled my tea with the lumps of sugar. And though I distinctly asked for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for the extraordinary sweetness of my disposition and the extraordinary gentleness of my nature, but I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To save my poor, innocent, trusting boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I will not go.
I knew I distrusted you from the moment I met you. I felt you were false and deceitful, and I am never deceived in such matters. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
Well, it seems I am trespassing on your valuable time. I'm sure you have many other calls of a similar character to make in the name of Ernest. My own Ernest.
Dearest Gwendolyn.
A moment. May I ask you if you are engaged to be married to this young lady?
To dear little Cecily. Of course not. What would have put such a silly idea in your pretty little head?
Thank you, you may.
I knew there must be some misconception, Miss Fairfax. The gentleman whose arm is at present around your waist is my dear guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon.
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack!
Ah, my own love.
Ernest, a moment, Ernest, may I ask you, are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
What young lady? Oh, good heavens, Gwendolyn.
Yes, good heavens, Gwendolyn. I mean,
No, put such a silly idea in your pretty little head.
Thank you, May.
Mwah.
I felt there was some slight error, Miss Cardew. The man who you are now embracing is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon. Are you called Algernon?
Well, I can't deny it.
And is your name really Jack?
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked. However, my name really is Jack. It's been Jack all my life.
Gross deception has been practiced on both of us.
My poor, wounded Cecily.
My sweet, wronged Gwendolyn.
You will call me sister, won't you?
There's just one question I'd like to be allowed to ask my guardian.
An excellent idea. There is just one question I would like to be permitted to you, Mr. Worthing. Where is your brother Ernest? It is a matter of some importance to both of us of knowing where your brother Ernest is. We are both married to your brother Ernest, so it is a matter of some importance of knowing where your brother Ernest is at present.
Gwendolyn, Cecily, it is a very painful thing to be forced to speak the truth. And it is the first time in my life I have ever been reduced to such a painful position. And I have very little experience in doing anything of the kind. However, I will tell you frankly, I have no brother, Ernest. I have no brother at all. In fact, I've never had a brother in all my life, and I certainly have not the smallest intention of ever having a brother in the future.
I'm afraid it is quite clear, Miss Cardew, that neither of us are engaged to be married to anyone.
Oh, not a very pleasant position for a young girl to suddenly find herself in, is it?
Let us go into the house. They will hardly venture to come after us.
There, no, men are so cowardly, aren't they?
I suppose this ghastly state of things is what you call Bunburying.
Yes, and what a most wonderful Bunbury it is. In fact, this might be the most wonderful Bunbury I've had in my entire life.
You have no right whatsoever to Bunbury here.
Well, that's perfectly absurd. One has the right to Bunbury wherever one so pleases. Every serious Bunburyist knows that.
Serious? Bunburyist? Good heavens.
Yes. One must be serious about something if one is to have any amusement in life. I am serious about Bunbury. If you're serious about I haven't the remotest idea. Everything I should fancy. What a trivial nature you have.
Well, the only small satisfaction I have in the whole of this wretched business is that your friend, Bunbury, is quite exploded. You won't be able to run down to the country quite so often as you used to, dear Algy, and it's a very good thing, too.
Your brother's looking a little off colour, isn't he, dear chap? You won't be able to disappear into London as often as your wicked custom was. That's not a bad thing either.
I wanted to be engaged to Gwendolen, that is all.
Well,
I love her.
I want to be engaged to Cecily, that's all I adore her.
Well, there is no chance of you marrying Miss Cardew.
Well, I see very little chance for you and Miss Fairfax ever being united.
How can you sit there, calmly eating muffins, when we are in this horrible spot? I can't make it out. You seem to me to be perfectly heartless.
Well, I can't eat muffins in an agitated manner. The butter would get all over my cups. One cannot eat muffins calmly. It's the only way to eat them.
I say, it is perfectly heartless you're eating muffins at all under the circumstances. Algy, why won't you go?
Well, my dinner first. Never leave without having my dinner first. No one does. Except for vegetarians and people of the like. But besides, I made arrangements with Dr. Tossable to be christened at 5:45 under the name of Earnest.
My dear fellow, the sooner you give up that nonsense, the better. I made arrangements this morning with Dr. Tossable to be christened at 5 o'clock, and I will naturally take the name of Earnest. Gwendolen would wish it. We can't both be christened Earnest, it is absurd.
But I haven't been christened in years.
Yes, but you have been christened, that is the important thing.
Quite so I know my constitution can stand it. If you're unsure about this whole christening business, I dare say it's very dangerous you're venturing into it now. You needn't have forgotten someone very closely associated with you who carried off with a severe chill in Paris.
But you said yourself, a severe chill is not hereditary.
It hadn't been, but I dare say science is making wonderful improvements and the like.
Oh, that is nonsense!
Have you had the muffins again? I wish you wouldn't. I told you I'm terribly fond of muffins.
But I hate tea cake.
Well, then why on earth would you have it served to your guests? Ideas you have about hospitality.
Algy, I've already asked you to go. I don't want you here. Why won't you go?
I haven't finished my tea yet. And there's still a muffin left.
that they have some sense of shame left. They have been eating muffins. Seems like repentance. They don't seem to notice us at all. Could you cough or something?
I haven't a cough.
They're looking at us.
What effrontery.
They're approaching.
It's very forward of them.
Let us preserve a dignified silence. Certainly, it's the only thing to do now.
This silence is producing an unpleasant effect. The most distasteful one.
Oh my God, get off the stage.
But we will not be the first. Certainly not.
Mr. Worthing, I'm so Is there anything to ask you? Very particular to ask you.
Something
Much
much
depends on your
depends on your reply.
What common sense you have, Gwendolyn?
Oh, thank you. Mr. Markey, kindly answer me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's younger brother?
In order that I might have the pleasure of meeting you.
That certainly seems a satisfactory explanation, does it not? Yes, sir, if you can believe him. I don't. That does not affect the wonderful beauty of his answer. True, in matters of grave importance, it is style, not sincerity, that is the vital thing. Mr. What explanation can you offer to me for pretending to have a mother? Was it in order that you had a as only as possible to see me?
What did you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the greatest doubts upon the subject, but I intend to brush it. Now is not the time for Germans. Skepticism. Their explanation is quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Wadley.
Oh my God.
I'm more than content with what Mr. Moncrief says. His voice alone seems to inspire absolute credulity. You should forget them.
Oh my God.
Yes, I mean no. True. There are little truths they cannot surrender. But would you tell them the task is not a pleasant one? Now, both speak at the same time. An excellent idea. I mean, you always speak at the same time as other people.
I don't know. It's a plan or something.
Exactly. It's just shades of skin and an insuperable barrier. That is all.
Our Christian names, is that all? But we're going to be christened this afternoon.
Are you prepared to do this terrible thing?
I am.
Please me, are you going to face this fearful ordeal?
I am.
How absurd to talk about the equality of the sexes when the questions of self-sacrifice are concerned. Men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
They have moments of physical courage we women know nothing about. Darling, darling!
Darling!
Ow!
Lady Brack.
Good heavens!
Gwendolyn. Well, what does this mean? Come here, sit down. Agitation of any kind is physical weakness in the young and of mental decay in the old.
Get off of me! Bitch, fine!
Oh my God.
Fine.
Apprise, sir, of my daughter's absence. I trusted from her maid, whose confidence I found by a coin. I followed her here on the luggage train. I need not tell you that all communication between you and my daughter must cease immediately, and on this point, and on all points, I am firm.
Lady Bracknell, Gwendolyn and I are engaged to be married.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. And now for Algernon. Algernon,
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
is this the house in which your poor Mr. Invalid friend Bunbury resides?
Bunbury? No. Bunbury's somewhere else at present. In fact, Bunbury's dead.
When did he die? His death must have been extremely sudden.
Oh, I killed Bunbury yesterday. I mean, Bunbury died yesterday.
What did he die of?
Bunbury? Quite exploded.
Exploded. Yes. Revolutionary outrage.
No, Aunt Augusta, Bunbury was found out. I mean to say that the doctors found out that Bunbury could no longer live, therefore he died.
Well, he seems to have great confidence in the opinion of his physicians. Now that we're rid of this Mr. Bunbury, may I ask, who is this young person that my nephew Algernon's hand is holding in a most peculiarly unnecessary manner?
That lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
I am engaged to be married to Cecily, Augusta.
I beg your pardon.
Mr. Moncrief and I are engaged to be married,
Well,
Lady Bracknell.
some preliminary inquiry on my part is not out of place. Mr. Worthing, may I ask, is Miss Cardew also related to any of the greater railway stations in London? I merely asked for information because until yesterday I had no idea that any persons or families' origins were a terminus.
Miss Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, Jervis Park, Dorking, Surrey, and the Sporan, N.B.
That is satisfactory. 300 is always inspires confidence, even in tradesmen. But what assurance do I have of their authenticity?
I have carefully observed the court guides of the period, and they are open to your inspection, Lady Bracknell.
I have known grave errors in those publications.
Miss Cardew's solicitors are the Messieurs Markby and Markby.
Markby. One of the Markbys is often to be seen at dinner parties. So far I am satisfied.
Oh, that's very generous of you, Lady Bracknell. You'll also be pleased to hear I have certificates of Miss Cardew's birth, baptism, whooping cough, registration, vaccination, confirmation, and the measles, both the English and the German variety.
Oh, a life too crowded with incident and perhaps a bit too exciting for a young girl. I myself am not in favor of premature experiences. So come, Gwendolyn, it's time for our departure. However, as a matter of form, Mr. Worthing, may I ask, has Miss Cardew any small fortune?
Oh, about £130,000 in the funds. That is all. So good to have seen you, Lady Bracknell.
Mr. Worthing, £130,000 in the funds. Well, now that I look at Miss Cardew, she's an attractive young lady. Come here, dear.
So bad.
Oh, your dress, it's sadly simple, and but your hair is almost as if nature has left it. But all of that can easily be altered with the help of a thoroughly experienced French maid. She can produce dramatic results in a very short period of time. I once recommended one to Lady Lansing, and after 3 months, her own husband did not recognize her.
And after 6 months, no one did.
Please stand up, dear. Turn around. No, it's a side view that I want. Oh, there are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile. The two weaknesses of our age are its wanted profile and its wanted progress. Now, the chin a little higher, dear. Yes, style is all about how the chin is worn. It's very high at present. Algernon.
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
There are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Cecily is the dearest, sweetest, prettiest girl I've ever met in my entire life. I do not care a tuppence for social possibilities.
Oh, don't speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people that cannot get into it do that. Here, come here, dear. You know that Algernon only has his debts to rely on, and I am not in favor of mercenary marriages. However, I must consent to the marriage.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Yay!
Okay, you either have to leave, or we're going to stop the show right now.
I'm sorry.
It's as simple as that. I either need you to just sit down, be quiet,
Yep.
or you're disrespecting everyone in this room. I believe that the marriage ought to take place very soon.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Yes, I'm not in favor of long engagements. I believe it gives people the opportunity of finding out each other's characters, which I never think is advisable.
I beg your pardon for interrupting you, Lady Bracknell, but I'm afraid this engagement is out of the question. I am Miss Cardew's guardian, and she cannot marry without my consent.
Oh.
And that consent I absolutely decline to give.
Oh. Upon what grounds? Algernon is an extremely, if not eligible, young man.
It pains me very much, Lady Bracknell, to speak quite frankly to you about your nephew, but I'm afraid I do not approve at all of his moral character. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful, Algernon? My own nephew? Impossible. He's an Oxonian.
I'm afraid there can be no doubt about the matter. This afternoon, during my temporary absence in London on an important question of romance, he obtained admission to my house under the false pretense of being my brother. He succeeded in the course of the afternoon in alienating the affections of my only ward. And what makes his conduct all the more heartless is that he's perfectly well aware from the first that I have no brother, that I've never had a brother, and I certainly have not the smallest intention of ever having a brother in the future. I told him so myself yesterday afternoon.
After careful consideration, I've decided to overlook my nephew's conduct to you.
Oh, that is very generous of you, Lady Bracknell. But I'm afraid my own decision on the matter is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
Come here, dear. How old are you?
Well, I'm really only 18, but I've been to 20 at evening parties.
Oh, indeed. No woman should be accurate about her age. It seems so calculated. So 18, but admits to 20 at parties, and will soon be of the age and free from the restraints of tutelage. So I do not believe that your guardian's consent is a matter of any importance at all.
I beg your pardon for interrupting again, Lady Bracknell, but I'm afraid according to the terms of her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not come of age until she is 35.
Oh, there is no grave objection in that. London society is filled with women that have been 35 for years. Now, there's no reason why our dear Cecily is not more attractive at the age you mentioned than she is at present, plus there'll be a large accumulation of property.
Algy, could you wait for me till I was 35?
Oh, of course I could. You know I could.
Yes, I felt it instinctively. But I myself could not wait that long. I hate waiting even 5 minutes. I couldn't wait that long even to be married.
Well, what is there to do?
I don't know, Mr. Moncrief.
Mr. Worthing, I beg you to reconsider your decision.
Oh, but Lady Bracknell, the matter is entirely in your own hands. The moment you consent to my marriage to Gwendolen, I will allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
You must know that what you ask is completely out of the question.
Then I'm afraid a passionate celibacy is all any of us have to look forward to.
That is not the destiny I envision for Gwendolen. As for Algernon, Algernon can choose for himself. However, come, dear. We've already missed 5, if not 6 trains. To miss any more will expose us to comment on the platform.
Everything is quite ready for the christenings.
The christening, sir? Is that not a bit premature?
Both these gentlemen expressed a desire for immediate baptism.
Algernon, I forbid you to be baptized. The idea is irreligious and grotesque.
Am I to understand there ought to be no baptisms at all this afternoon? I am grieved to hear such sentiments from you, Mr. Worthing. However, though your present mood seems to be one particularly secular, I shall return to the church at once. Indeed, I have been informed by my pew opener for the last hour and a half. Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry.
Miss Prism? Did you say a Miss Prism?
Yes, Lady Bracknell. I'm on my way to see her now.
Is this Miss Prism of repellent aspect remotely related to education?
She is the very picture of respectability.
It's obviously the same person. May I ask, what position does she hold in your household?
I am celibate, madame.
Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell, for the last 3 years has been Miss Cardew's esteemed governess and valued companion.
Oh, despite what I hear of her, I must see her at once. Let her be sent for.
She approaches. She is mine.
I was told you were waiting for me in the vestry, dear Canon. I've been waiting for you there for an hour and 3/4.
Prism! Where is that baby? Prism, come here. Prism. 28 years ago, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104 up at Grosvenor Street, in charge of a perambulator with a baby of the male sex. You never returned. And after 3 weeks of careful investigation by the Metropolitan Police, the perambulator was discovered at midnight in a remote corner in Bayswater. It contained a 3-volume novel of a revolting sentimentality. But the baby was not there. Where is that baby, Prism?
Lady Bracknell, I will admit with shame that I do not know. I only wish that I did. The plain facts of the case are these. On the morning of the day that you mentioned, a day which is forever branded in my memory, I prepared as usual to take the baby out in its perambulator. I also had with me a somewhat old but capacious handbag in which I had intended to place the manuscript of a piece of fiction which I had written in my few unoccupied hours. In a moment of mental abstraction, I deposited the manuscript in the bassinet and the baby in the bag.
But where did you deposit the handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
Miss Prism, this is a matter of no small importance to me. I must insist on knowing where you deposited the handbag that contained that infant.
In one of the larger cloakrooms of in London.
In what railway station?
The Victoria Brighton Line Railway.
I must retire to my room for a moment. Gwendolyn, will you wait for me?
If you're not too long, I'll wait for you here all my life.
What do you suppose this means, Lady
I
Brown?
daren't even suspect, Dr. Tossable. I need hardly to tell you that in large families, strange coincidences need not occur. They're hardly considered a thing.
Sir Jack seems strangely agitated.
The Guardian has a very emotional nature.
It sounds as if we were having an argument. I despise arguments of all kind. They're always vulgar and often convincing.
It has stopped.
Oh! I wish he would come to some conclusion!
The suspense is terrible. I hope it will last.
Miss Prism,
Just do it.
is this the handbag? Examine it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one life depends on your answer.
It is. It seems to be mine. Here is the injury I received during the setting of a Gower Street omnibus in younger and happier days. And here is the stain on my loining caused by an explosion of a temperance beverage incident occurred in Leamington. And here on the lock, my initials I had forgotten I had them placed there in an extravagant mood. The bag is undoubtedly mine. I'm so delighted to have it returned to me. It's been so long to be without it. A great inconvenience.
Miss Prism, more is restored to you than this handbag. I was the baby you placed in. Yes, mother.
Oh, Mr. Worthing, I'm unmarried.
Unmarried? Oh, I do not deny that that is a serious blow. Although, who has the right to cast a stone at one who has suffered? Cannot an act of repentance wipe out an act of folly? Why should there be one law for men and another for women? Mother, I forgive you.
Mr. Worthing, in error. There is a lady who can tell you who you really are.
Oh. Lady Bracknell, I hate to seem inquisitive, but could you kindly inform me who I am?
Oh, I'm afraid that the information that I have to give you will not altogether please you. You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently Algernon's elder brother.
Algy's elder brother?
Yay!
Then I have a brother after all!
You have a brother.
I always knew I had a brother! Cecily, how could you have ever doubted that I had a brother? Dr. Tossable, my unfortunate brother. Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother. Gwendolyn, my unfortunate brother. Algy, you'll have to treat me with more respect in the future. You've never treated me like a brother in your whole life.
Well, not till today, old boy, but I dare say I was out of practice.
My own. What own are you? What is your Christian name now that you are someone else?
Oh goodness, I suppose your decision on the matter of my name is unalterable.
Well, I never change, except in my affections.
What a noble nature you have, Gwendolyn.
Aunt Augusta, at the time when Miss Prism deposited me in the handbag, had I been christened already?
Every luxury, including Christians, including christening, had been lavished upon you by your fond and doting parents.
Then I had been christened. That's settled. Now, what was my Christian name?
Oh, being the eldest, naturally, you were christened after your father.
What was my father's Christian name?
Oh, I can't recall the general's Christian name at the moment. He no doubt had one. He was an eccentric, but that wasn't until later life, and that was because of indigestion, the Indian climate, marriage, things of that kind.
Algy, can you recollect what your father's Christian name was?
Oh, my dear fellow, we weren't on speaking terms. He died before I was 1 year old.
Aunt Augusta, I suppose his name would be in the army lists of the period.
Oh, yes, the general was generally a man of peace, except in his domestic life, but his name will be listed in the military manual.
I have the army lists of the last 40 years here! These delightful records should have been my constant study. M. Generals. Barbara Cunningham, Blake Maloof, Bruce Sokler, Darcy Pfeiffer. Oh, what ghastly names they have. Markby, Migsby, Mobbs, Moncrief. Lieutenant, 1849. Captain, Lieutenant Colonel, Colonel, General, 1869. Christian names, Earnest, John, Gwendolyn, I always told you my name is Ernest, didn't I? Well, it is Ernest after all. It naturally is Ernest.
Yes, your name is Earnest, and you had a particular reason for disliking the name.
Ernest. My own Ernest. I felt from the first you could have no other name.
Gwendolyn, it is a terrible thing for a man to find out suddenly all his life he's been speaking nothing but the truth. Can you forgive me?
I can, for I feel certain you are sure to change.
My own one.
Letitia,
Pregnant?
settling at last.
Gwendolyn, at last.
Nephew, you're displaying signs of triviality.
Oh, on the contrary, Aunt Augusta. I finally realized for the first time in my life
The vital importance of being Ernest!
importance of
Thank you for coming.